As we wrap up 2023 and celebrate the holiday season, some local scene staffers sat down to talk about the holiday movie they return to year after year. We call this next piece, "'Tis the Season." Enjoy.
So the movie I've selected to talk about is Die Hard. Die Hard starts off with John McClane, played by Bruce Willis. He's a New York City cop arriving in LA to meet with his family, meets his wife at her work Christmas party on Christmas Eve, and it's crashed by a group of terrorists and they take the building hostage. After that you have a pretty fantastic action movie based entirely on Christmas Eve. Die Hard might be one of the very first Christmas action movies. I can't think of any older Christmas movies based around an action plot. But since then, I think there's been a few other action movies that have come out based on Christmas. One of my favorite parts of the movie is when one of the terrorists is killed, he's sent down in an elevator, and Hans Gruber delivers the line, "Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho." And that, and I probably can't say the other line, but yippee-ki-yay, mother something. I don't know if I'd say it's my ultimate favorite Christmas movie, but it's definitely up there. When I was younger, me and my cousins would always kind of watch Die Hard on Christmas Eve, so it kind of became like a traditional Christmas movie to watch. All the older adults usually watched something like It's a Wonderful Life, so that wasn't as much for me as Die Hard was. You grow up with classic traditional Christmas films and they're kind of all very similar and, I don't want to say boring, but predictable. Die Hard is very much not that. It's very exciting and action-packed and a fun Christmas movie.
The movie that I picked was The Nightmare Before Christmas. So the plot of The Nightmare Before Christmas is about Jack Skellington, who is the Pumpkin King of Halloween Town, and he discovers Christmas Town and tries to take his own spin on Christmas, but it causes so much chaos and confusion between all of the different worlds that are within this own universe. So I picked this movie because it's literally both a Halloween and a Christmas movie. And Halloween is my favorite holiday, and I love all Tim Burton films, so it's a nice way to carry over the spookiness of Halloween into the cheerfulness of Christmas, because I'm not always ready for that overly cheerful girl from the city comes to live in a rural town, meets the guy of her dreams. That's just not me. So I like having the animation and some slightly twisted aspects, but also a little bit of Christmas cheer. I feel like the main theme of the movie, at its core, is about identity crisis, because Jack Skellington is going about his life and he's just he knows he's the Pumpkin King, this is what he does, and then he starts falling into the routine of just monotony, and then when he finds Christmas Town, he's like, "What's this?" And that's literally one of the songs where he just goes around, "What's this? What's this?" And he gets so excited. So I think at its core, it's trying to find out who you really are, but also appreciating and respecting what somebody else is too.
I picked A Christmas Story because it was a movie that was constantly on in my house growing up. Plot for A Christmas Story is the main character, Ralphie, wants his Red Ryder BB gun, and he's trying to figure out how to get it from Santa. And throughout the whole movie, people are saying, "You'll shoot your eye out, kid," and he's going through all these different lengths to get the Red Ryder BB gun, and he doesn't think he's gonna get it. I think there is a theme to this film. It's kind of that present that you want, especially when you're a kid, and you don't think you're gonna get it, and then when he gets his BB gun, it's just this really drawn out, he opens up all the presents at Christmas. He even gets this pink bunny rabbit costume from his aunt or something like that. And you're just thinking of those are the presents that you don't want, but you gotta figure out how am I gonna use this? And you relate to that on such a different level. I like it because there's so many scenes in this movie. In particular, one that kind of sticks out to me is when Ralphie's going up to see Santa, and they're in this mall, and he has to wait in line, and there's some kid with like these glass goggles and everything, and he goes, "I like Santa," and then it cracks me up every time. And then they have this whole kind of Wizard of Oz thing going on throughout the movie where the Wicked Witch comes up and says, gives a whole spiel to Ralph, and he's like, "Not now, I'm busy." And he's just this little kid, like, being so adult about getting his, trying to get his BB gun from Santa.
Okay, so I really thought about all the movies that I could have picked throughout my childhood. So I had to think about the one defining film that defined me as a kid. I would have to say that was Home Alone. I really think that as a kid growing up, when you watch that movie, you're like, who doesn't want to have their house all to themselves, get rid of all their siblings, all their family members, and just live large, eat all the ice cream sundaes, eat all the pizza, eat my macaroni and cheese in peace. It's wonderful. I get to watch all the R movies that I want. So it was a perfect movie because it's like everything you wanted as a kid. It's a very nostalgic movie for me. Home Alone really, there's just some very beautiful moments, even some things that we say now, "Merry Christmas, you filthy animal." So there are just some magical lines that I've kept with me, and anytime I think of Christmas, I really think of Home Alone. There are a lot of scenes that are my favorite, but in particular, it's when he's finally setting up. So to set up the movie, this kid gets stuck at home alone when his family goes to another country without him. So they go, and then these two bandits, the wet bandits, they try to rob his house, and he doesn't want them to. So he sets up micro machines under the windows and sharp ornaments on the floor, and he basically he booby traps the entire house so these two villains can't get in. And it's just amazing from start to finish, the ingenuity. We all wanted to just swipe the stuff off of our desk, put a map down, and just organize our house and arm it to the fullest. Why not? Underneath it all, between the humor and the sarcasm and everything, it's really about family and learning that Christmas is about family and that we all need to appreciate and love our relatives a little more.
So for 'Tis the Season, I decided to pick Violent Nights. As I get older, Christmas movies are such a classic tradition for me and my family, but as you kind of age up, you look for new Christmas holiday films, and last year they came out with Violent Nights, which was more of a die-hard John Wick style of Christmas film. So essentially, David Harbour, who plays Santa Claus in this film, is essentially over 1,000 years old, and he's gotten to the point where Amazon packages and money and video games and just material values have kind of destroyed the tradition of Christmas, and he has gotten to the point where he almost doesn't really believe anymore. And the plot, without spoiling too much, is mainly about this family that gets held hostage on Christmas, and Santa ends up going to their house to deliver presents, only to get interrupted by a gunfight and have to take down one of the killers. This whole fight breaks out, and essentially it turns into now Santa Claus having to save this, mind you, terrible family. They're not good people, except for maybe a few of them, the little girl and her family. But everybody else is just terrible people of this family, and now he has to save them. My favorite, without spoiling too much, is at the beginning of the film, there is this bar scene where essentially a mall Santa is talking with the actual Santa Claus. And after a bit of discussion about what Christmas is about nowadays in modern times, where people are more about the gifts that they get than the actual people that they're with, he gives a present to the bartender, who is surprised that he knows who their grandchild is. Essentially walks off to the rooftop, and she's like, "Where are you going? That's the roof." It sets the tone for a comedic holiday film. As Santa flies over her head, she throws up off the side of the sleigh and just covers her in vomit. It's nasty. But the whole film is like that. It gets worse, you know, very gory, very in your face, but at the same time, very comedic. And it's a family Christmas movie for adults, definitely not kids. I would not watch it with anyone under 16 for sure. This is not the Santa that you grew up with.
My selection is Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. Tom Cruise plays a very wealthy doctor that lives in Manhattan, and his wife, at the time, in real life, was Nicole Kidman. She plays his wife. She's a stay-at-home mom, and they have a child together. They go to an extravagant party of one of his patients, and while they're there, both of them get flirted with some of the partygoers. And when they get back to the house, they have a discussion, and it becomes like a very stupid argument. And Nicole Kidman's character talks about, like, I really wanted to cheat on you at one point. I would have risked it all. And it's really hurtful to him. And so what happens is he goes on a house call, but he takes that opportunity to just walk around New York, and he kind of encounters different people that kind of tempt him and kind of relate to his story thematically. And he gets into a little bit of trouble. Well, it's one of my favorite films ever. It's like in my top 4 on Letterboxd, so how could I not? Because it's also a Christmas film. My interpretation of it is, I think a lot of it's a critique on relationships, especially when juxtaposed with class. I think I'm fascinated with the institution of marriage, especially since we always talk about you're supposed to marry for love, but there's so many other factors in play. And Nicole Kidman's character is not happy in her marriage, and her husband is completely oblivious to it. And it just kind of explores human desire and how that's sometimes counterintuitive to our duties and the things that we think that we want, the things that we think are going to make us happy. My favorite scene is the one where Nicole Kidman is at the party at the very beginning, absolutely sloshed, and this Hungarian guy comes up to her and starts to aggressively flirt with her. It's just a really great scene. It's fun because she plays drunk in such a fun way, and also it's like my second favorite delivery of the line, I'm married. She goes, I'm married. That can't be topped.
I picked The Apartment by Billy Wilder. The story follows Bud Baxter, played by Jack Lemmon, who hails from Massachusetts. And he's this on-the-go, on-the-rise insurance executive who's ambitious, climbing up the career ladder. And he's ambitious in a certain way that's not just hard work. It turns out that he is loaning his Upper West Side apartment to his superiors so they can use the apartment for their extramarital liaisons. And Bud is more than happy to offer it, of course, at the toll of his own health and his personal life. But things get a little bit complicated when he falls for Fran Kubelik, played by Shirley MacLaine. And she's the elevator operator. And he's smitten with her, but the problem is she's the mistress of his new boss, Jeff Sheldrake, played by Fred McMurray. And it's set against the backdrop of New York City as the holidays progress with Christmas and New Year's. I think The Apartment is really one of the best examples of a holiday movie. I think it's really one of the first holiday movies I've ever seen where Christmas is a backdrop, but it does play a role, not as heavily as a role as It's a Wonderful Life or A Christmas Story would. But I like the idea that these are single people who, in some way, are looking for love or validation. Bud and Fran, certainly embodying those characters. And it's just one of the things I love about it. That and Billy Wilder, I've made a discovery of his work, and it's part of a really great run for him. Because he made Double Indemnity in 1944, and then he made The Apartment in 1960. And in between that are some incredible films he made. And The Apartment, in some respects, is his holiday film. My favorite scene in the film, in general, is Bud is at work. And the night before, he had to put up with a superior who made a last-minute request. Bud had to give up his apartment after he's taking sleeping medicine. And he ends up sleeping on a park bench. And, of course, it's cold out. So the very next day, he comes into work sick. And he realizes he needs his apartment to rest and relax. So he calls his superior who had the apartment booked that night. And it becomes this trickle-down effect where various calls are made to all these other superiors trying to rearrange their nights with their mistresses. All the expense of Bud just simply trying to recuperate from his illness, all caused by his superiors. It's a very ironic moment, but it always makes me laugh. Bud Baxter goes through the trials of love, And there's a moment in the film where he's drowning his sorrows in a bar. And it's actually one of the film's more iconic comedic moments where he ends up encountering this drunk Santa who says he parked his sleigh the wrong way. And the look Bud gives him, and he's wearing this hat that just does not look good on him, the look he gives the Santa, and the Santa goes, okay, clearly not the right person to talk to, and saunters off. I think that whole scene encompasses why I love the film, because it kind of shows maybe the dark side of Christmas. It's a very joyous time, but then there are parts where there are people who don't have families to celebrate with, and The Apartment kind of makes you look at that.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button before you go. We'll see you next time.